Drawing. All painting starts with drawing. So drawing practice is a good thing to do. So just a few things about drawing practice. When you're practicing something, you don't need really good equipment. In fact, really good paper and really good things are going to hinder you. So, what I recommend when you're practicing drawing is just any old paper you can find. So, if you've got some paper in the recycling, use that. Cheap sketchbooks, everything is fine because you want to. Here's a quote. Where is it? I had it prepared from a really good book on writing. I loved this book for writing. It's really good. So Natalie Goldberg, Writing Down the Bones, just a classic for getting you into writing practice. And when it comes to art, it's all about practice. It's a skill, and the more you practice, the better you get. So she talks about so when I teach a writing group, I have to tell the story all over again and remember that the students are hearing it for the first time. I must begin at the very beginning. And that's what I loved about her book. She's really good about going right for beginners. First, consider the pens you write. I'm actually going to skip that. She just says get a fast writing pen. And for drawing, you just want a pencil, just a regular pencil. You can also draw with other tools, but a pencil is just fine. Think too about your notebook. It is important. This is your equipment, like hammer and nails to a carpenter. Feel fortunate for very little money. You are in business. Sometimes people buy expensive hardcover journals. They're bulky and heavy. And because they're fancy, you're compelled to write something good. Instead, you should feel that you have permission to write the worst junk in the world and it would be okay. Give yourself a lot of space in which to explore writing. A cheap spiral notebook lets you feel that you can fill it quickly and afford another. Also, it's easy to carry. So, same thing with drawing practice. You do not need good papers. The good papers are for when you're a professional or when you're practicing to become a professional level because the texture will be different. When you're a professional, you want good papers because they're built for longevity. They are acid free, and that means that they won't deteriorate in 10 years, whatever. When you're a professional, you want your art to last a long time, but not when you're practicing. When you're practicing, what did you say? Feel that you have permission to draw the worst junk in the world and it'll be okay. So for drawing practice, just get really cheap newsprint. So this is 18 by 20 for a newsprint. It's the cheapest paper you can get, and you can get it at any art supply store or any place. And my tip is draw big, paint small. Draw big, paint small. And the reason we want to do that is painting, there you go. Painting actually takes a lot longer to do than drawing. Drawing can be done fast. Drawing, you have your pencil and you're like wailing and going really fast. Painting takes a little bit longer. So when you paint small, like this one took me probably 20 minutes. It's pretty small and it's a very fast sketch. If you were to paint big and spend hours on it as a beginner, and it doesn't turn out as it might not because you're a beginner, you'll get dejected. And it's hard to find 4 or 5 hours. But you can find 20 minutes. You can find half an hour. You can find an hour to paint. And the more you practice, the better it goes. So paint small. But in the meantime, draw big. If you can, I really recommend taking a life drawing class. That's drawing from life, drawing human models, because there's nothing harder to draw than the human body. If you can do that and practice drawing big, filling up your page, then you're going to progress fast. Because drawing big is all about confidence. You want to draw big and be confident about filling the page and making your work be seen. there's a tendency for beginners to shrink down a little bit. We have this idea that, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. If I just go out there really big, um, my mistakes will be big. So we don't, nobody wants big, giant mistakes out there for everybody to see. So we tend to like, we'll shrink down like this. And we'll do it in any art form. We'll do it in acting. We're just gonna, this is our, our emotional range. We'll do it in writing where we'll talk in whispers and stuff. We won't make big, strong choices. We'll do it in painting. So that's just a natural tendency, and we want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So I recommend draw big, draw on cheap paper, and give yourself permission to draw the worst things possible. Make all your mistakes here. This is not for keeping. This is for one drawing, next drawing, next drawing. Let's go. You want to crank it out because it turns out the tip to mastery is just quantity. That's it. The more you practice, the better you're going to get. So just use any paper you have around the house. Now, if you don't have the big stuff, if you're going on a trip or something, sure, get the small stuff. Any practicing will do. But if you really want to get good fast, then draw big and paint small. Because the principles of art are the same whether you're painting little or big. The only thing that's going to change is, when you're drawing small, you'll be close to it and you're going to make little tiny hand movements like this. Or painting small, you're going to be making little movements like this. When you're painting big, you bring your whole body into it. So that's the only difference. But the principles and elements of art stay the same. So you're going to learn about composition. You're going to learn about lighting. You're going to learn about color and value and shapes and tone and all the things that go into a painting when you're painting small. And you can finish these fast, and they're cute. They get cute power. And then you can go from painting small to painting big after you've kind of figured everything out. And there will be a leap from that. And that's about it. So I'm pretty happy about how that turned out. I don't know, can you see that? Is it blurry? Everything's backwards. So watercolor is when you get into painting, the pigments are all the same. Whatever makes the pink color and the blue color, they're all the same. The difference is what you mix them with. So when it's oil paint, you take a pigment and you mix it with oil. When it's watercolor, it's mixed with gum arabic. When it's pastel, I think it's gum tragacanth, something like that. Or is that a dinosaur? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I'm not a chemist. But the pigments are the same. They're just mixed with different things. Acrylic paint is mixed with acrylic, a polymer. And that's the only difference. So when they're mixed with the different things, they will have different textures. So watercolor is translucent and flowy. And then there's something called gouache. Gouache is watercolor, but it's opaque. And they make it opaque by adding either chalk or more pigment. So it's a fun one to paint with because I wanted to be an oil painter. And I started with gouache. That's the same technique. You start with the darks and you move to the lights. Whereas with watercolor, you do the opposite because it's transparent. You start with the lights and you end with the darks. And the more you paint, the easier it gets. So gouache is opaque, and is it focusing? Looks a little. So this is gouache, and then on top of it, you can put pastel. So soft pastel, really fun to do. And so you use it as a gouache as an underpainting, and then the top layer you use pastel. And then I did an oil painting on. Looks a little soft. Is it focusing? Tech problem. Tech crew. Oh, it's me. Oh, I have to do everything. So so that's an oil painting. So these little guys just took a few, like 15 minutes, and they were super easy because I did the drawing challenge first. And in fact, I hadn't really thought of doing it before this way, but I really fell in love with this way to look at a photo that you're going to paint and do these little drawings. And then the painting came so much simpler because I'd already looked at the photo so long. I had decided on what the lines were and what the shapes were and where the energy was. So that's all we do when we're an artist. We're just really looking at things. And the elements of art are basically like the alphabet. And once we know the elements, we can draw and paint anything because we know how to look at something and see it as shapes, or to see the values, or to see the lines. And that's it. So I'm going to put it up again. You just go to irenedumateachesart.com/challenge. And I hope to see you there. It's a fun drawing exercise, a fun challenge, really good drawing exercises that will lead to painting, and also show you how to get into the habit of creating art with many steps. The best way to get into habit is to make it small and consistent. So small and consistent over a long stretch of time is the road to mastery.